I too would be happy to meet him. The more people I meet, the happier I become. From the meanest creature, one departs wiser, richer, more conscious of one's blessings. Even you, even you, who knows, will have added to my store.
Hey, why doesn't he put down his bags?
But that would surprise me.
Hey, you are being asked a question.
A question? Who? What? A moment ago, you were calling me sir in fear and trembling. Now you're asking me questions. No good will come of this.
I think he's listening.
What?
You can ask him now. He's on the alert.
Ask him what?
Why he doesn't put down his bags.
You know, I wonder.
Ask him, can't you?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the new group Offstage Talks. Tonight, it's the artists panel from the production that the new group is doing right now of Waiting for Godot. And we're going to have a talk with some of the creative people and the actors that are in tonight's cast, starting with John Leguizamo, who plays Estragon, aka Gogo. Tarik Trotter, who's going to be joining us in a few minutes, who plays Pozo. Pozo, is that right, John, or Pozo? Pozo. Drake Bradshaw, who plays the boy. Hey, Drake. Monet, who is the production's associate director. And Scott Elliott, who is the artistic director of the new group. And welcome. Yeah, did you hear that little shout out you got? Welcome, everybody.
I got a hand. That's amazing.
I know.
I can't believe I got a hand.
My name's Nancy Giles, and I've been really excited about talking through some of these panels with this great group of people. And I guess, John, I'm going to start with you about how this felt for you to do, because it was kind of a hybrid between performing on the stage and doing a film. There were certain parts where I felt very intimately that you were right there. Like I felt like I was in the front row of an audience. And then at the same time, it had this whole cinematic quality. Tell me what that was like for you.
Yeah, it was an interesting hybrid. Plus, we were looking at ourselves because you have that Zoom thing where you're seeing yourself also at the same time.
Right.
So that was a added thing to your acting, because we've all done stage here and we've done some film, but we haven't done it with being able to see ourselves at the same time. So that was kind of odd. But I think what helped us was I just focused on Ethan or Tarik or Drake. All of a sudden my focus was in film mode, or acting mode. You just focus on the person and you put all your energy to them and you forget yourself, you forget your environment. And the stage part of it was, I think it's just a very well-written play. And it's not like film where you can improvise a lot or you can change the lines. You couldn't change any of the lines. So that was the difference. That was a play side of it where you had to say the exact lines as written.
Wow. And I find that amazing because watching it, and I've read the play, but it sounded different. It almost felt like some of it was improvised.
Thank you. I take that as a big compliment.
No, yes. I mean, when you can take an author like Beckett and make those words sound like they're coming from you, it's pretty extraordinary. Monet, as the associate director, how did you approach helping the actors make that language their own?
I mean, I think that we all respect the Beckett of it all. So we start from a dramaturgical place and make sure that we have an idea of what he was trying to say on a macro and how that translates into today and the pandemic of it all and what we were trying to say and what all of the gentlemen bring to the piece. And just making sure that I was ready and handy when people had questions about their lines that I could hopefully answer for them dramaturgically. But yeah, just trying to keep everybody in the same world on the same page. And I think everybody came to tell the same story. And I think when you come to do that, everybody can make something really great.
Oh, it certainly happened. Drake Bradshaw, you as the boy, talking about everybody being on the same page. I'm curious for you, Drake, how was it acting together with the other actors without being in the same room with them? How did that feel for you?
I thought it was fun, even though I've never even acted in an in-person movie. I've only acted in a online movie, so I don't really know how it feels to actually be in person.
What? Really? So when you finally do act with other people in the room, that's going to be a whole new experience for you.
Yeah.
Whoa. And you had to build the set for the show. You had to build it yourself, like it was in a room at home?
Yeah, I was in my playroom. I didn't have the playroom for like 2 weeks.
You lost your playroom space.
Yeah.
Did you come up with the ideas on how to decorate your room yourself?
No.
Did you like how the room was decorated? Pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, I like because it was all dark.
You liked it because it was dark.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, going back to John. Actually, no, Scott, I haven't even brought you in there. This is such an ambitious.
Here's Tarik.
Oh,
Tarik.
Hey, Tarik. Finally, we've got Tarik. Oh, wonderful. Okay, Tarik Trotter, who plays Pozo. How are you, Tarik? Oh, you're on mute.
Muted.
You're muted.
Still muted.
Okay, he's still muted. Okay, he's gonna come. He'll be able to join us in a second. Scott, while Tarik's getting set up, can you talk a little bit about the idea of even doing this, and I guess even going forward with it once COVID hit? Was this going to be a stage play, or was this always the intention?
Yeah, no, this was always the intention. We picked up the play at the, after the shock of the pandemic really settled in and everybody was sort of where they were. Ethan had read it first and called me up and said, read this play. And then we asked John to join us, and then we just started to read it, and we didn't really know what we were going to really do with it. And it just became clear that we were having a great and sort of emotional time together. And then when we added Tarik and Wally and we started to really work through it, it seemed clear that it deserved more attention than a Zoom reading, that it deserved to actually be filmed with cameras that capture the emotion and and reveal the performances in ways. So no, it really was a journey. But no, I never, ever, ever, ever thought I would do Godot on a stage, and I never want to. Really, I don't think. I quite enjoyed this process, though.
I agree in a lot of ways. I've seen productions of it, and I'll be honest, found them kind of boring and confusing. This had a particular focus, and going back to John Leguizamo, I'm wondering about the alienation of what's going on in the play and being alienated because you're not with people in the same room, whether you were able to sort of work those two tracks together.
I think when Ethan and Scott brought the piece, I thought, just like when they told me that, they thought it was the perfect analogy to the pandemic, to being alienated, to the 4 years that we spent with the former president and the insurrection. All those things were the same world that Beckett was talking about after the World War, and what was happening in Europe, being bombed, and homeless people and people without food and jobs. It was such a parallel world. And then to do it on Zoom, you did feel the alienation. You wanted to reach out and say hello to Ethan, or hug Monet, or high five Scott, and you couldn't. You just had to feel what you felt on this side of the screen, and you couldn't get past it. But I think it helped us. It helped us really. I don't know. I felt this is the first time that I've ever seen a Godot that I felt that had emotion behind it, and had pain behind it, and had anger behind it. I always find it a little kind of glib and a little too facile for my taste. But I felt like what Scott did here was so strong and deep. I feel like this is what Beckett really meant for it to be.
Mm-hmm. one thing I forgot to say, I agree, I totally agree with you. It did have all of those extra qualities and this intensity that I've never seen before. I forgot to mention to people that are watching, you can send questions in. We'll try to get to as many of them as we can. And you can just put the questions in the chat area of your screen. Tarik, are you up and running? Oh, shucks. I guess he's double checking his audio. Can we, I don't know what's going on. This is like
and he's a rapper. He's a rapper.
Oh my gosh! Wait, this
He's
is just like the Golden Globe Awards when one of the award winners was blanked out. Okay, keep working on it. Keep working on it.
Can you write, Tarik? Can you write things? Your answers? Can you write your answers in?
Let's see. I'll go to Drake. Drake, how hard was it for you to learn your lines? Was that a particularly big challenge for you?
It was a pretty big challenge to memorize every single line and get it all right without any mistakes.
And how did you do it?
Many months of practicing.
Some people sometimes record their lines and listen to them, and other people like put their hands over the script and try to recite what's there. I'm just wondering what your method was.
I just I remember it and I say I don't really do anything else.
That's all you did. You just focused on all of that.
Yeah.
All right.
That's a young brain right there.
I mean, John, you were
like
saying
mine is a lot more complicated.
I was gonna ask because as we get older, it gets more difficult. And this is a big play with a lot of short, choppy lines. How did you do it?
Oh, it was hard. It was hard. I was scared. You can ask Scott and Monet. I was scared. I was like, I don't know if I can memorize this thing. It's 60 pages. It's a lot of lines. It's repetitive dialogue. Sometimes it's a bit of gibberish. It's hard, and you don't know when I'm always saying, waiting for like 50 times in different parts of the play. I don't if I'm off, I don't know which section I'm in. So I had to use all kinds of methods. I mean, my assistant would run lines with me. I would do the thing where you cover the page and you try to remember your line. I tried recording it. I was in a panic.
It's funny because it's a relatively short play, but yeah, as I read it, I realized those lines are complex, and it reminded me kind of David Mamet sometimes, where he'll write in a very colloquial way, and it can be difficult. Okay.
I feel like American Buffalo is based off of this play, to be honest with you. That's my hypothesis.
Oh, yeah, I never thought of that. That does have a lot of the same kind of feeling to it. Okay, let me see. Have we got Tarik yet? Anybody?
How about now?
Hey, all right. Welcome, Tarik. We've been
so
talking about this whole experience, and I just want to catch you up a little bit and find out what the experience was like for you to be doing this meaty theatrical play on Zoom where you weren't in the room with other people. How did that fly for you?
For me, it was very challenging. But I felt like it was exactly what I needed at the time, and sort of the place I was, the space I was in mentally and creatively. And I don't know. I just feel like it was sort of the perfect connective tissue to sort of get me through the end of quarantine. When Scott initially not pitched it to me, when he initially told me about the project, it was hard for me to sort of wrap my head around it. So I started diving in, doing a bunch of research, and just checking out other productions and some classic footage of waiting for the show. And I was like, how are we going to do this this thing that seems like all parties involved sort of have to be in the same room and playing off of one another's energy. But over time, as we started reading through it and started to work on all these different beats, it began to reveal itself and to make a lot more sense. So it was great.
Monet, I want to ask you, there were some moments in the piece, I can't even call it a film because it was kind of a film, but it was sort of a play, where the screen would freeze or there was some distortion there. Was that like a choice that you guys made, or was it something that you came upon accidentally, or were the actors was that a real technical blip, like what we just had with Tarik not being able to get in?
Well, I think it's a little bit of everything, right? I think to what you were saying about it's not a film, it's not theater, it's a piece. I think that we found it as we worked. We found what the piece was with everybody who was in the room. We have an extraordinary editor who will be in the next panel, Jonathan, who really made those glitches make sense and be a part of our storytelling and be a part of the world of Beckett where there are no answers and we don't really know what's going on. I saw in the questions that if somebody asked if it was actually the actors' cameras glitching. No, we actually had a wonderful tech team and we had wonderful internet and everything was really lovely. But that's something that was a part of our storytelling for the world that we created in these bunkers.
Yeah, it did feel like a bunker. Can I follow up with you and ask, was this filmed live so that the actors were actually like in Zoom conferences doing their scenes together, or were their parts filmed separately, or was it a combination of both?
Oh, that it was filmed live on Zoom. I think that John and Ethan and Tarik and Drake and Wally would have been very upset if they had to do an entire Beckett play, not being able to respond to their scene partner. That would be terrible. I mean, that was some of the most beautiful work that was happening, that even in this medium, we can find a way to connect. And during the pandemic, people have been, and how beautiful that is, that as human beings, we can find another way to connect. But I would never wish that upon any actor to have to pre-record and then act with their scene partner. So, Tarik and Wally, and then Ethan and John respectively, and Drake in the room, watching them be able to play these scenes out live like we do in theater was a really beautiful thing.
I was going to say it could add another level of alienation, but maybe that's a little bit too much alienation.
That'd be mean. That'd be mean.
Scott, was it your choice, your decision to set the play indoors, and why did you do that?
Well, because we were indoors, it would have been so not authentic if we went to a park and found a tree to do it, because it just wasn't what was happening in the world. And a play like this, I don't know, these sorts of plays that, have absurdist tendencies, to me, it's all about locating the humanity in it so people can relate to it. And so our life was that. And I just, I based all of the things that I did on these people that I know, and also on the moment, because I thought it was important that this piece be said in this moment. And we found ways to tell, this Beckett staging in sort of our own poetic ways, because that was all we had. And everybody was still apart. It was the dead of winter. It was a terrible moment, when we shot this. I mean, we started like the summer before, meeting, but of course there were gaps because we have a very busy, active group of people who were working on it.
Of course.
And so, but we kept meeting, and we would meet, and then we wouldn't meet for a few weeks. But I think the play and the tone of what we were doing just washed over us, that I don't think any of us ever questioned it. We just sort of went with it. And I think that's why I think you say it's sort of, it's sort of moving in a way, I think. But
it does speak to the moment, to the period that we've been in. John, I know you can't stay that much longer, but I want to ask you and Tarik to talk a little bit about your characters and your view of your character, your opinion of your character. Why don't we start with you, Leguizamo?
Playing Esther John, or Esther John, as I call him, Go. So, when I started reading it with Ethan, because I wasn't sure about the play, I was like, I didn't really know if I could do it or if I could bring anything to it. And then I started working with Ethan, and I started falling in love with the language and feeling like, oh, wow, I do have an in. I can bring a feeling of vernacular to it without changing the dialogue. And so I started falling in love with it. And I go, who do I create? How do I create this? And it felt kind of like I was thinking of, people I grew up with who were schemers who were very, very manipulative in a nice kind of friendly way, but still manipulative. So I started thinking of people like that I grew up with to create sort of a beta to Ethan's alpha of Dee Dee, because they definitely there's a hierarchy, you know. Definitely Ethan is a boss, but I have my own power, but it's more underhanded. And so yeah, and creating this thief, you know, they're both thieves, and they're both incredibly hungry. They don't have jobs. How do you create a person who's that lost, you know, and still make him human?
Yeah, I have to compliment you too, because I've seen a lot of your shows where you play multiple characters, and I felt little flashes of these other characters in what you were doing with this. Now, for someone like you who has that ability to just kind of flip, was it hard to sort of rein it in? Because when you used different voices and did different things, it really resonated.
Yeah, no, it always, you have to kind of rein yourself in. I mean, I think the best actors are reined in, and yeah, so you know, I just have to contain it a little bit, you know, not to get too crazy, not to try to overpower anything, and once I settle in a nice place, it's fun for everybody.
Right. Tarik, can you talk a little bit about your character and what you view as your character's strengths, weaknesses, powers?
Yeah, sure. You know, for me, I think you know, one of the strengths of the entire piece was you know, just how poetic the language is in which it was written. So when I was trying to wrap my head around it, and you know, to commit lines to memory, and you know, to figure out what they actually meant and the underlying meaning, I was able to sort of use that familiar muscle as a musician, and you know, having just memorized just lots of music and poetry. So I felt like I was able to apply just a certain musicality to what it is that I was doing. And you know, I think Pazzo, in very many ways, Pazzo and I are sort of alike. You know, I feel like he's an elder. I feel like Pazzo almost represents the culmination of my he's the sum of all my fears. You know,
Fascinating.
I feel like it was very timely in that it spoke to what's just the energy that we all were feeling, during quarantine, and as Scott said, during the dead of winter. But it really, it was a post-apocalyptic, end of the world, after the end of the world sort of vibe to it. After one's world was, I don't know. I feel like Pazzo, I approached him as an entertainer whose day had come and gone unbeknownst to him, almost. You know what I mean? Who sort of didn't realize that that the show was over. So
my goodness.
just holding on to the last bastion of the power dynamic that he had known, which was just this one last person, Lucky, who was his menial, but at the same time very much like his his polar opposite, but then still in many ways his alike. And it was I feel like this piece, I think we all approach this piece from the perspective of it being about two marriages. So there was that, and just breaking it down from where I was in Act 1 to where I was in Act 2. I feel like by Act 2, the jig was sort of up, and the challenge was bringing a certain level of humanity and vulnerability and relatability to this larger than life character that I built up in Act 1.
Wow, that's beautiful. And the way you describe it, I think of like Norma Desmond, which I'm sure you didn't think of, but I'm thinking of that kind of broken down former star, and just the texture that's there. It's really rich. John Leguizamo, I know that you have to go. I just wanted to give you a chance to, if you're still here, to give us the essence of what you took away from this experience.
Well, it was one of the beautiful experiences of my life. It really was, because of being in quarantine in London and being alone a lot. It was this moment where we could connect with each other and have laughs and really talk about deep things. Because when you're doing a play, you got to go deep into yourself and share it with others. And it paralleled the play, because the play really is about the love these two guys have for each other, and how the only thing, when the whole world is in apocalypse, the only thing you have are your relationships. That's the only thing that ends up mattering. And Dee Dee is nothing without Gogo, and Gogo's nothing without Dee Dee. And you were feeling that, every time we ended, when we ended this whole thing, it was very depressing, because I was used to these 6 months of being with these guys on Zoom, and I would no longer be able to see them. It was a come down for me.
Oh my goodness. So like the weight of it all was over, and then well, we really it's a wonderful performance. Thank you for participating.
Thank you, Nancy.
I know you've got your own things to do.
Yeah.
And just
virtual hug, everybody. Virtual hug.
I know,
virtual
right?
hug.
Mutual hug. Thank you, sir.
Peace out. Love y'all. Love y'all.
All right.
Love you too, bro.
Hey, Drake, I want to come to you and ask you a little bit about your character. Can you talk a little bit about the boy?
I think the boy is cool because he takes care of all these cool sheep in the story, and he meets very cool people in the play. Vladimir mostly, but I think that's cool that Vladimir is nicer than Estragon is in the actual movie.
Right. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
So was that a surprise for you? How did you, when you realized that about Vladimir, how did that change things for you?
It changed because I thought Estragon was the one that was going to be a little nicer because it sounded like he had a nicer name.
I love that. Yeah, Vladimir does have kind of a Vladimir.
Yeah.
Drake, I have to ask you, because this is a Samuel Beckett play, and it's a complicated play. And as an adult, the times that I've read it, I don't always understand it. How did you figure out what was going on? Talk to me about that.
I figured out because, well, yeah, I practiced a lot. Also, I read the play over and over and over again till I really got what it was.
What was it for you? If you had to describe what the play was about and where your character fit in, how would you do that?
I think it's about two people waiting for a very, very important man. And I think my character fits in because I'm the only person that can connect with technically the man to the two men.
So you're the connecting tissue.
Yeah.
You sort of run the show in a way.
No.
This is I guess for Tarik, have you worked on any other Samuel Beckett plays?
No, I have not. I've not worked on any other Beckett pieces.
Approaching this, were you know, I'm going to ask you the same thing I asked Drake. I mean, this play for me as a grown-up is like thick. How was it for you?
Yeah, it was definitely, just a huge, emotional and mental sort of commitment. One of my main concerns was just, that I didn't bastardize or, I didn't want to do a disservice to the work in any way. Or, I wanted to do something that was on par with sort of the evolution of the legacy of something so brilliant. I didn't want to, you know what I mean? I feel like so often people find a thing or, do an adaptation of a thing, where it wasn't broken and it didn't require fixing. So I didn't want that to be the case with this, especially, taking it on in such a new medium. Yeah, I mean, this is very much uncharted terrain. So I didn't want to, be responsible for, for the worst time that we did, that Waiting for Godot had been done. And, I didn't want the estate to, you know what I mean? Like I wanted us all to do right by the estate in that way because they were so trusting,
Right. Actually, that leads me to my next question, which I was going to ask Scott or Monet, whoever was dealing with that. What was your experience in getting permission from the Beckett estate to do this particular kind of adaptation of Godot? Not adaptation, but do it in this format. How did that go over with them?
Mo, you want to jump in?
Okay,
All right, I'll jump in. No, I'll jump in. No. They were incredibly nice and very, very receptive to the idea. I think, they're theater people, and you have to wonder what would have Beckett done at this moment in time if it happened to him. And I think that people were really open, and it was lovely of them to let us, because, they notoriously don't let you do anything other than what's written on the page. And for us, they understood the parameters that we had to work under, and understood what we were doing. And yeah, they were really nice. They let us sort of do what we needed to do.
Oh, that's great to hear. I was worried with that pause. I thought there was some big juicy story about
No, there isn't. Like, it's funny. A lot of people ask that question because I guess there have been times when they've actually closed down productions of it. But I think we stayed within the parameters of what they, what we said we were going to do, and I think that they thought, we were all just sort of like hanging around doing nothing, and I think they probably just figured, why not? See what happens.
Absolutely.
And plus, I have to say that the group that put together, I imagine that it would be hard. It just sounded interesting, like with this cast, to see what they would do with something like this. And yeah, if I was in a state, I would have said, that sounds so fun.
I know. And especially in the time that we were living in, it just was like, it was right there for us to experience, for everybody to experience.
Yeah. And, they let us experiment. They understood the parameters. They didn't make me have a tree. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like they
exactly.
understood that, we had to be separate, and we had to be indoors and all those sorts of things. So it felt good.
That is wonderful to hear. Yeah, because there's plenty of playwrights, living and dead, or estates, that things have to be a certain way. And it doesn't even have to do with changing dialogue or anything like that, but they want it a specific way, and that's the only way they want it. So it's great they had that flexibility.
I know, it is a very interesting thing to think of, but that's a whole other panel.
Yes, I know. I realize
we could do a whole panel on that one.
I was getting myself into a whole thing there. I'm going to throw this question out to everybody. It's said that Godot is a synonym for God, and that they're waiting for God or some higher power, and the higher power never comes. Anybody, any thoughts on that?
Well, I think Beckett himself debunks that theory, right? Like he people were always saying it because I guess the first three letters were God, and you can read into absurdism in so many ways, and it is a higher figure, but I don't think that was Beckett's intention. At least he says it wasn't, and we didn't think that of that person. And well, he never arrives, so I guess nobody knows who he is.
Right. Or does that mean that God doesn't exist, or there is nothing above? I don't know. Tarik?
Nancy, I like that thought, but Tarik, let's hear what you have to say.
On some days I did feel like Godot was God, and just with the sheep analogy, I feel like it definitely speaks to a higher power that everyone is sort of is waiting on, or waiting to reveal itself. Then on other days, I felt like Godot was sort of the angel of death. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I feel like it means different things to different people, and I feel like that's sort of that has to have been the original intention. You know what I mean? For folks to sort of interpret it as they would.
Sure, and that happens with anything that's out there and that's written. Yeah. People are going to put their own spin on it.
Yeah.
Drake, I'm wondering for you, did you think that part of this play had to do with God or heaven or anything like that?
No, I don't think so, because if that were true, probably they wouldn't be using a messenger walking to get to them and other
I mean, like
guys.
when you think about it, though, in most religious text, there are many messengers, right?
Yes.
And often, even in this across religions, there's often a shepherd, right? And sheep, and I mean, I don't know. So that didn't ring a religious bell for you.
Nope.
Okay.
In Drake's defense, he did a lot of actor work on his like moment before and who is Godot to him and where does he live, and so he's got a different thing going on.
Right,
oh man, okay, you opened that door, Monet. So Drake, tell me what was Godot for you? What did he mean to you, and what was going on before? And give me some of that.
I think what he meant to me was, I think he is a higher power, just not like a higher power that rules over anything. A higher power that rules over, like a president or something.
Okay.
Ah,
Okay.
okay.
Somebody that controls a lot of stuff and is a very important person, but does not control everything and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Did you feel like Godot controlled your character?
100%.
Mm.
Because they talk about that a lot in the thing. They talk about how my brother in the movie gets whipped from Godot. So I think he is a higher power because he has the power to do that.
Drake, have you done other plays where you're the youngest person in the cast? And if not, what was this like for you, working with all of these adults?
I have never been in a different other play, first of all. And I thought it was fun working with all these famous people because I get to meet all these famous people. I think it's fun meeting famous people.
Well, it was fun for us to meet you, kid. Yeah.
And I'm wondering, Tarik, I mean, working with someone that's as young as Drake, do you feel like you both learned from each other?
Absolutely. I feel like you always learn from young people, just because the youthful eye, like the eyes through which they see the world, are just very different. And I don't know, I feel like once we become adults, we spend a lot of time just wanting to sort of go back and to be able to unlearn what we've learned and to see things in that, with that fresh sort of youthful take on it in a way. So when I was young, when I was Drake's age, I couldn't wait to get grown. And, became a man. I wanted to sort of return to when I was a young person. I feel like that's how it always is.
It's so true. And in the end, these are called plays, like a child, right? There's supposed to be that kind of freedom there.
Yeah, I will say Drake and I got to hang out and play together a lot.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And, I'm a text-based artist. I like to go to the text and start there and then work from there. And, this play is one of my favorite plays, and getting to sit down and talk to Drake about what he thought about the play and what does he think Godot is and where is Godot and where do you live and all of those things. Like, it was amazing to just sit and listen to what he thought about the play, especially at, being my age and having seen the play a million times. Like, to get that fresh eye, it was exciting for me too.
I can imagine. And I guess it gave you a whole different spin on the play as well, something that you've done so many times. Do you keep learning every time you do a production of Godot, Monet?
Yes, I think this text in particular, and Beckett's writing, or, maybe even Brecht, these guys over here, per what Tarik was saying earlier about some days I felt like, and some days I felt like the angel of death, and some days it's God. I think that a piece like this is always that. I think that's why the Beckett estate was so giving to us to care for it in that way, because it's a classic for a reason. It can always be heard in a new way. It can always be seen from a different angle. You always identify with a different character. And so, yeah, it was a lot of fun to dive into it with these individuals who put such a inform these characters in such a lively, approachable, familiar way.
Mm-hmm. Monet, can I follow up and just ask you, what is it about this play that speaks to you?
I think it's that. I think it's that every time I hear something differently. I mean, I've never, obviously, because Wallace Shawn is a genius, and like hearing that speech through him, it became so many new things. You know, seeing Pato in and on Tarik is extraordinary. Learning about the boy through Drake, it's just so different every time. Like, you know, a Vladimir, a Gogo, and a Didi, that's an Ethan Hawke and a John Leguizamo. I mean, we're doing something new.
Right.
And so you get to hear it a different way. I mean, obviously I read it when I first started getting into theater, and it was a whole different thing for me this go around. And in a pandemic, nonetheless, when I am feeling isolated, never have I read Godot feeling as isolated and like I was waiting for something as when we did it this time, you know?
I mean, Scott, you want to talk about like a spontaneous convergence of events, because I've never understood that play as well as this. And I think the world we were living in just really shook things in a way that, you know, it was almost like the end of days. I mean, I remember at one point early on in the pandemic seeing footage of downtown Spain, and there were wild boars wandering around. You know, it did have that apocalyptic feeling.
Well, that's what we ran with. I mean, I sort of told them, like, let's pretend, because we're playing, right? Let's pretend that the pandemic never went away and there were no vaccines.
My God.
You know, and like, what would happen? You know, like, I mean, that's how we found, even I'm seeing Tarik, we sort of understood Pazzo's fall, you know, as a result of that. Like, what would happen, you know, if this went on and people kept dying and getting sick, and there was no hope? You know, what would it do to our mental states? And that was the basis of the sort of work that we were doing. We were going in a horrific direction, but I think we were all having apocalyptic fears anyway, because when we first started doing this, there was no vaccine.
Right.
There was nothing like that. There wasn't anything like that.
No.
You know, I mean, it all happened so quickly. So we were sort of going with that because, you know, it was an experiment, and I thought that it was important to, you know, accept our reality so that we could bring emotion and a sense of humor to the piece that reflected our own states of mind.
Absolutely. Tarik, I want to know how much, this is a question someone that's watching sent in, how much of the actors' movements, especially the close-ups, which, by the way, I found so incredibly effective, and again, in a deeper way than film, but how much of those movements were choreographed by the director or were improvised, like where you had the freedom to do what you wanted?
I'm sorry. I feel like, you know, a lot of the stuff, a lot of the movement, we sort of came upon naturally. And then, you know, once we did, we were able to sort of choreograph it together. You know, like one person would do this one thing, and it would sort of reveal itself as the right thing to do.
Right.
Beat. And and then Scott would say, no, do that again. Like that was it. And, you know, I know we were talking about doing it, you know, all these other ways, but that one thing that, you know, he or, you know, whomever had just done, like, that's it. So like, do this. And then let's try it next time with everyone doing this same thing, you know, sort of. So yeah, there was a lot of that.
Right. Yeah. In some points you could tell that things had been sort of worked out a little bit.
Yeah.
There's a scene at the very end, that scene with the candles and the credits are rolling. And it was really, it felt very powerful. And one of our viewers wants to know, what type of final message does this staging reflect? And what are you trying to say about the play in general with that particular final candle scene? I'm throwing this out to anybody who wants to answer.
I mean, just off top, I think this piece speaks to just the resilience of art, and I feel like it's a triumph, it's a victory for the arts in a major way. And I feel like it speaks to, just the fact that just creatively, we can't be stopped. I think if we were able to create something so beautiful and something, so meaningful that resonates with people on so many different levels, during, I mean, quite literally the end of the world as we knew it, then we could do anything. And I feel like that's what it represents.
Yeah. Scott, I saw you nodding at that.
No, I love hearing what people think about it. I don't really like telling anybody what I think about it, because it is a personal moment between those two guys, and you've sat with them for 3 hours. And I guess that, like, this experience, the experience and the play for me are about yearning. And I guess that's what I feel at the end, yearning, which is why they can't really leave, I think. But I don't want to get into too much analysis of it, because it was something that came from my heart and not my head.
Okay, I am having a hard time hearing you for some reason, Scott. It looks like there's some sort of a signal thing going on here. Let's see. Okay.
Oh, should I take my headphones off? Or am I?
Not at all.
I do okay, I think.
Yeah, I hear you. Great.
Yeah.
I think it's from you, Nancy. Somebody says. You're fine, Scott.
Oh, dear. Really? I'm so sorry, everybody. Let me see if I can fix this. Just talk amongst yourselves while I try to get this fixed.
Yeah, well, okay, Monet, let's hear what you think about the end.
And it'd be great to hear. Drake, can you hear me? Oh, dear.
Yeah,
can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you. We can all hear you.
You are. You're. But oh my, hell.
It's likely just the internet.
It's the internet. It's our play. It's life imitating art imitating life.
I have no idea why.
There's still too many people in the world.
I have no idea why. Oh, okay. Okay. Everybody's back. Oh, that was frightening. That was like waiting for Godot. That was totally my Godot experience. I felt completely alone in this world and trying to. Oh yeah. So okay. So we were talking about the artistry, that art can't be stopped. I love that you said that, Tarik. And that is a real strong, powerful message there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Drake, in the end, when you finished working on this play, tell me, what did you think the play was about and how did it affect you? I mean, pandemic has been difficult for young people. You haven't been able to go to school except for being on video. How is that going for you? And how did the play help you?
I think the play helped me occupy myself while I was going to school for like 3 hours a day on Zoom, and it gave me something to do and practice for.
Do you think it helped make your other schoolwork better?
Yeah, I think it helped my other school better because I knew I would be accomplishing something through the coronavirus.
Right. I mean, yes, you were doing your schoolwork, but this was a real big accomplishment for you.
Yeah.
Would you ever want to do a play in this way again?
100%.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah.
I liked it.
What about working on the stage? Would you want to work on stage and be able to see people?
Maybe.
Only maybe. Okay. All right.
Nancy, this experience was like, I mean, it's hard to describe, but I think it brought us all so much comfort, and that's sort of what I'm getting as sort of the result of like what happened, working on something like this. It brought up so much stuff, but at the same time, like, I think Mo and I felt this way, like sometimes we weren't working together for weeks and we were missing it so much. And it's such a weird thing to think that way because we're all experienced, except for young Drake, in this world, in this rarefied world of, of what we do. And and it's sometimes it feels like, oh, just another, we're doing another thing, we're doing another thing. But like, this brought me back to like, when I started the New Group Theater Company 25 years ago, like it had that sort of feeling of purpose beyond anything else. It was just a strange experience to have that experience. And I felt lucky. I think a lot of us do, because we were able to turn something so heinous into something so powerful for us.
Yeah, joyous, absolutely joyous in its way. I mean, you're so right, Scott. You get in these plays and there's this intensity, and we're all together and we're doing this thing for an intense short period of time, and then we all split. And with this, you guys worked in spurts. Am I right? They were because of people's schedules.
Yeah.
How hard was that? Monet, I'll ask you to start with, just in terms of continuity and keeping the keeping the feeling the same way, or the intensity. How difficult was that? Scott, you're laughing.
Because Mo was the superhero of that.
Yeah.
Mo and I, like, I think shook hands once before we developed a relationship through this thing. Like we developed relationships, all of us. I mean, I knew everybody, but not everybody knew everybody.
Right.
And it was and there were some people who we developed relationships, working on this, the technicians, the other artists who will be on some of the other panels, and we had never met in real life. But the feelings were so deep. So it's fascinating how I don't know, you were saying, how resilient we are, and it's fascinating. I haven't unpacked it all yet.
Right. Monet, what about you? I mean, again, just the starting and stopping, and the intimacy and the splitness of the whole thing. Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, I think, from a technical making theater film, one takes a lot of notes and reminds the actors where they were last time and what they said last time, and a lot of blocking notes about things. But I think that we did have the luxury, I guess you could call it, of we have these pairs, we have these marriages, like Tarik said. And so we got to work our schedules kind of in pieces. And so Ethan and John, we scheduled together, and then we scheduled Tarik and Wally together, and then we scheduled the four of them together when we could. And shout outs to, Drake and his lovely parents for scheduling everything and making that go. And then Drake and I worked together like weekly and sometimes twice a week up until shooting. So Drake he got to pop in with Ethan and John when scheduling permitted. So Drake was acting with me for a long time.
Oh my goodness.
And so, you find a way. And I think it almost helped us to try and kind of like piece through this and really understand what we were trying to say and the world that we were trying to build. And then from just a technical place, it's just reminding everybody what we said last time and keeping everybody on track. And per what Scott was saying, we just all got so I mean, I've never met Drake, and he's like, I know Drake so well. What do you mean? I spent so many months with my friend Drake. So, I feeling so close to each other, and harking back to what Tarik said about how resilient art is, and what Scott was saying about how this brought us back. I think it's because we had to figure out how to tell this story through this medium. And you kind of have to go back to just making art through this, but you have to, as an artist, figure out how we're going to do this, like when you're in a basement theater somewhere, or when people were making art out in a field. It's kind of like that. I mean, we got some fancy Sony tools at our disposal and some wonderful people to make it with, but you really have to get back to just figuring it out. And then per the pandemic of it all, it was kind of wild. I mean, I was with these people like all day, every day, it felt like. And then we wrapped shooting, and I just like shut my computer in my living room, and like there's like shooting schedules all over the floor, and they're like bowls and like things. And I was like, okay, I guess it's over. Like it was so bizarre.
Yeah, no rap party. Nothing like that. All
didn't
the
even
fun
do like
was we didn't have any of the fun parts that
not
way, you
even
know.
like a Zoom cocktail session or something where Drake could
Not
bring
really. I
a
mean, we were so
photo.
tired by the time we
Oh,
We're
finished because
tired.
it was so harrowing. You know, like I mean, like I had directed a movie from where I'm sitting now at my kitchen table. It was just a very strange experience with all these different boxes, you know, in front of, you know, trying to figure out how to do these boxes. And it was so pure, Nancy. It was like there was something so pure about it. Like it was blissful. I highly recommend it. You know, I think that like what the cool thing that the pandemic did to artists is that it forced us to experiment. And like as artists, as committed artists, we're all really experimenters. You know, of course we crave the commercial success or whatever, but truthfully, I think that we're like experimenters. There's not one artist that I know who isn't a person who likes to take risks at heart.
you have to
And
be.
yeah, and this
Yeah.
forced us to. And so in a way, I don't know, it was really pure.
Yeah.
I mean, Scott, yes, Tarik, I heard you chiming in.
No, I was saying it gave us the opportunity, I guess, the necessity to try something.
Right.
So yeah, the fact that we got a chance to take part in this trial and it feels like it was a success. You talk about trial and error. This was trial and success, and it brought lots of people together, and it tied in all of our worlds. And it's the sort of thing where after, I mean, we all have other things going on, but I feel like this experience informed whatever else it was that we had going on in a very positive way. And when it was time to sort of step back into with your day job or whatever other creative space, I personally felt like I was made better. I was better for it, very much in the way that when I was a young person, I would tour. Like before I signed my first record deal, I would tour around with jazz musicians, and we would go on these runs through Europe, for a couple of weeks at a time, and be performing for audiences that were largely non-English speaking, and I would have to rap and sing and improvise over music that was mainly in some far out meter.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like where it didn't feel or sound like what I was used to. So it sort of got me out of my
comfort zone. Sure.
A different space. And I feel like it was very cathartic in that way. And, just an awesome exercise. And whenever I would come back from that, and step back into, the creative space, the capacity that I was used to working in, I just felt better. I feel like it informed what I did normally in great ways. And this project worked in the same way for me, and probably for everyone else involved in different ways like that.
Oh, that's so exciting. I realized there was one little sneaky question I forgot to ask everybody, and that's that since you were doing these Zoom things and you're in an environment where there's all kinds of other distractions. I'm saying this because my cat is outside the door right now going. Were there things that happened while you were taping that you had to sort of overcome, be it a siren or a baby or pets or anything?
I live on a train route. And like I'm in my office right now, which is above my garage, and this is my space. This is where I record, where I write, where I read, where I listen to records. But it's disconnected from the rest of my house. And there's a train that goes by. I mean, Monet could probably tell you down to the minute how much time there is between each train that passes. But there's a lot. I think I hear one coming now.
That's so funny.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was something that we had to, either overcome or work around or incorporate into the piece. So yeah, that was a personal challenge that, I mean, there was nothing I could do about it.
Of course, that's very real. Drake, what about you? Were there any things that happened while you were shooting your scenes? Any dishes crashing or something like that, or someone playing loud music in the background?
Yeah, my brother sometimes played piano in the background. Also, in Illinois, we have Tuesday alarms. The first Tuesday of the month, this really, really loud siren goes on.
Oh my goodness.
For like a tornado drill or something. So that was also a distraction.
When that happened, I mean, did you just kind of go with it, or was it kind of like, we have to stop, there's some noise, shut up, you know?
No, it was more like, we have to stop.
Of course. Scott, would you ever want to do something like this again? I have to, my hat is off to you, because I know you as a theater director, and this had this mix of theater and film. I can't even quite put it into words, but it looked so beautiful and was so theatrical. And, you know, this is kind of a necessity breeds invention kind of thing, you know? Would you do it again?
That was, I don't know that I mean, I don't know that I'm going to do it exactly this way again, because, you know, it had to totally be in the moment. You know, it had to be in the moment, but definitely, like, we have a bunch of things, you know, in our new group off stage, you know, these sort of new experimental works, and we have sort of like a year of fun, you know, cinematic explorations, I guess you would say, of, you know, people in the theater, or people, you know, sort of expressing and figuring out how to sort of bring it to other people. I think it's fun to make the work accessible. It's fun to let everybody, you know, see stuff that we're doing and see our experiments. And I will say just quickly that for me, like, everything that could possibly have gone wrong did go wrong. In my opinion, during the shooting. Monet has got that little fun smile on her face. She knows what I'm talking about. It was like as if, like, you know, like I would say we lost an entire day all into technical problems.
Oh my goodness.
And things like that, because we were shooting remotely. It was a camera. The actors were working their own cameras. I mean, it was a feat. It was such an experimental feat, because we couldn't have people in people's spaces at that point. It was just not allowed. And so the actors were working their own cameras, changing the batteries, working with the sound, all with technicians like this guiding them about how to do it. And so it was so invigorating, but I don't imagine I'll do it again in this particular way. But it definitely, you know, it's funny. A friend of mine, a close friend of mine, it just said to me, "Oh, it's opened you up," you know, in a way. And I thought, like, oh, at my age, I would just be coasting, you know what I mean? Toward the, you know, like, it would just be, you know,
retirement.
Yeah, I hit this thing, I do this thing, you know, I could do blah, blah, you know, but then there was something about it. And I think that she was right. It opened me up. And so I feel open to new adventures in a way that, that maybe I didn't before all of this. And maybe that's my positive of it.
Monet, what about you from an artistic point of view? Would you want to do something like this again?
Oh, I mean, my short answer is yes, and we've learned a lot, so we could go into it with more information. But I come from, you know, a theater background, devised theater. You know, I studied in Russia for a while, immersive theater, film. So I'm down to play in any way, anytime, anywhere, to tell a good story and get it to the people. So.
Well,
but I do it differently, for sure.
Sure. Well, you guys worked it all out. You sort of worked the kinks out. I have to thank you for a wonderful panel. I'm sorry about my sound glitch. John Leguizamo, who was here earlier. Tarik Trotter, thank you for coming in when you did. Drake Bradshaw, you were fantastic. Monet, great points. Scott Elliott, you're the bomb. If
Thanks,
you haven't seen,
you're the bomb.
Thanks. If you haven't seen Waiting for Godot, it is available. It's streaming for a limited time at thenewgroup.org, and you must see it. It's beautiful to look at and really thought-provoking and powerful. And I just want to remind everybody that next week on Wednesday, the 26th at 7, our Offstage Talk series continues with filming remotely. Okay, I can't see it. I can see it that way. And we're going to discuss the challenges that we just sort of talked about a little bit of making a film during the pandemic. We're talking with cinematographer Kramer Morgenthau, production designer Derek McLean, costume designer Queen Jean, and editor Jonathan Weinstein. Associate director Monet, you'll be back again, and Scott Elliott. So I want to thank all of you for pitching in and just giving us these great bit of anecdotes about what it was like doing this production. It's a really, really beautiful piece. Thank you. Thank you to all of you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy, and thanks No Studios.
Thank you, No Studios.
Thank you so
and thank
much.
you, John Ridley. You guys
We love
are
you,
fabulous.
John Ridley and No Studios.
That's right. That's right. Okay, people. I guess we say goodnight.
Okay.
Good night.
Bye. Nice talking to you. Bye, Drake. Cool shirt.
Thanks.